Hey everybody, I'm Steve Beecham here with my buddy Dave Schmit, and today we're going to talk about mentors. And he just finished writing a book called 5 Men, and it's a book about mentorship. And I said, Dave, come, I want to talk to you about it because it's something I'm very passionate about. And I think, Dave, one of the big things that I think about is that, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, but guys our age love to mentor younger folks. But younger folks don't know how to attach themselves to a mentor. They don't know how to ask if you would be their mentor. They're afraid that somebody might say no. What's your thought on all that? What do you think?
Well, I think it begins with not pursuing the point you just made, asking somebody to be a mentor. I think it starts with relationships, right? So as you talk to somebody who's in their 20s, let's say, and you ask them, can you think of 2 or 3 people in your life who have had a dramatic impact on your being, how you've developed, how you've grown, and so forth? Many times sons will mention their fathers, daughters will mention their mothers, parents, many times, if you're blessed and lucky, can be mentors, but also coaches, teachers, other people they've walked in life with can be in that role. And so I've really said mentorship starts with a relationship and then it evolves.
So if you have that relationship, how do you approach that as a young person to that person you've got the relationship with?
I think you stay in continuous contact. So we had a time together, we talked, so you felt something, right, in that relationship.
Yeah.
And then maybe next month you say, can I catch up with you again? Can we talk?
So you don't really
further?
go to them and say, hey,
No.
will you be my mentor?
No, you develop the ability to have
Can I
that
buy
happen.
you lunch? I've got some stuff I'd like to ask you, or I've got some things I'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the 5 men who were my mentors, I didn't use those words with them until I wrote the book. I mean, honestly, and I'm in my,
Well, like you
I'm in my
call
60s.
them, remember,
so,
you're my mentor, right? We didn't
right,
do that.
yeah, and it was never that way. They were clearly mentors in every sense of the word.
Do you think they felt that way? Did they know that they were mentoring you or felt like they were mentoring you, or was that just the kind of people they were?
Well, it was. There was something special about each of them, for sure. The other thing is, since 3 of the 5 of them are still living, and 4 of the 5 I had to have conversations about the book with. So it was really, really a one in which, between both sides, we realized the value of the relationship, and we had a chance to talk about it. Years
After the fact.
Yeah, because my coach is still alive now, from when I was 18. I talked to him, in the last few weeks. He's 82 years old. We still talk about stuff, right? And so every one of them were these kind of conversations, and you could tell there was a relationship. There was a reason they saw me like I saw them, somebody important in their life.
You're saying that they felt kind of the same way you did. They felt like there was a special bond, or
not at the outset,
okay,
but it developed. So that's why you can't say, well, for instance, Dr. Brown was my professor who was really the inspiration for the book. Well, on day 1 or day 30 or the first year, he's my one professor. I'm one of several hundred students. I mean, why am I any different than anybody else? But yet, some things happened. I followed up on it. I stayed connected. We kept talking, and then just the relationship blossomed. And then just untold number of things happened where it was the right time to talk to him about important issues.
So who were the 5 mentors that you had?
So the first one that originated the book was a gentleman, Dr. Brown. He was this is a construction management director at the University of Florida when I went to school, and I met him as a student and ultimately delivered the eulogy at his funeral 30 years later. We were that close over 30 years. And so he was the one that kind of started it. But the 5 are my father first, for values, things that a parent can give to a child or a son. The second was my high school baseball coach, so relationships, teamwork, things that athletics teaches you about being in teams and so forth. The third one was the priest that married my wife and I, baptized our 2 children. We had lost a child earlier in our marriage. He took us through that grieving process and such. Dr. Brown was the 4th one. And then my first boss out of college, 5 men, the last 5 men is really 2 men, and the one that brought me here to Atlanta in the business I started here. So
there's really 6.
Yeah, I really think of...
5 and a half?
Yeah, I really think of 5 values, right? Values, relationships, spirituality, education, vocation.
So that's
really
that's
the 5
interesting.
areas.
That's interesting. So Did you discover that on hindsight, that each one of those people had a different value for you in your life?
That's what developed. So, and it developed on the 5-hour drive I had. I was driving back from Gainesville, back to my home here in Atlanta, and reflecting on the eulogy I had just delivered for Dr. Brown, and all the good things I said about him and so forth. But I was thinking about, well, what did he mean to me? I didn't really give pause to think about that.
Wow.
By the time I got home, 5 hours later, I had expanded. So, I have other people in my life that are similar. My father for a lifetime, my high school baseball coach since 18, a priest since my teenage years, Dr. Brown since I was a teenager, and then the two bosses, one right out of college and one in the last 20 years. So they were all long-term relationships.
So Dr. Brown passed. Who's the other person?
Father Caverly was the priest that passed away.
So like on that, have you replaced that priest with somebody else that represents that value in your life?
No, I have not. I mean, I don't necessarily need that development. I mean, now I'm sort of flipped to the other side of the
You're giving
of life.
instead of
I'm more
receiving.
giving than receiving. Not that any of us have learned everything. We still got a lot to learn, right? But yeah, I've flipped more into the mentoring role versus the mentee role.
So, people that you're mentoring, why do you think they come to you? What would be the reason?
I'm a good listener, and I tend to create an environment where they can sort of open up and not feel threatened. I mean, it's really a key part of it. And if they got something sensitive to talk about, that number one, there's trust that it can stay between us.
Right.
And number two, I'm going to listen and try and provide multiple pathways. I'm not going to give them the answer. I'm trying to think about things they ought to think about. Get them to think a little deeper about
stop right there.
circumstance.
That's pretty good statement. You're not going to give them the answer.
No.
Tell me about that.
I think, well, number one, I
You
generally...
don't want somebody preaching to you?
Well, I may not understand everything, and the answer evolves through the conversation. It's just, and I've sort of distinguished a couple of things in conversation between coaching and mentoring. I think it's an important point, and I put coaching into, you ask me how to do something, and I give you an answer about how to do it. Tactical, technical, so forth.
Right.
As opposed to in mentoring, I'm saying, I really need to understand you, and you need to understand me, so there's context out of a relationship. I know your family. I know maybe you have a personal trait you're nervous speaking in public, whatever, right?
Right.
There's these things about you that are unique to you that are just not an answer to a multiple choice question, so to speak.
So that's got to come from time.
That's what takes time, that relationship to develop, yeah.
So how would you coach people on building deeper, better relationships?
I think it's consistent connection. Consistent connection. Yep. I mean, much like all of these men that are in my life, I had my father's accepted. We're always going to stay in contact there. But for the rest of them, I had a routine, regular contact with them. If there was nothing for me to tell them, I'm still calling them up, checking on them, saying
How
how they're
often?
doing. Sometimes it might be monthly, sometimes quarterly, sometimes I might not have, like Dr. Brown, I might not have caught up with them except homecoming the next year, right?
Oh.
But, bosses you're seeing quite often just in the context of work. The priest I'm seeing every week, and once we left Atlanta, we still stayed in contact with him.
Wow.
He was back in Orlando area where he resided. So, yeah, but I'd say consistent connection, and that's how the development of the relationship happens, because you're learning more as you're going, and I'm getting older, they're getting wiser, right? There's all kinds of dynamics going on here with time.
So somebody that's a mentor, do they need to seek out somebody to mentor, or do they need to wait for that person to come to them? How should that work?
So here's the technique I use.
Okay.
So if any young person wants to have lunch, or I'm talking about they're challenged with something, whatever, I immediately say, let's have lunch. I'll buy you a coffee. Let's talk. And that's how it starts. Then the onus is on them.
To follow up.
Yeah, if they want my guidance, and a lot of people are in kind of my mode, we love to give advice to young people, help them along in life, but I'm not going to call you to nurture that. I have to be important to the mentee, for the mentee to basically say, I'm going to keep that connection up because I saw something of value. Sometimes it happens, sometimes not,
But
that's
you're
what
waiting on them to give you the second phone call. Now, see,
And-
I've had a discovery of, I used to think that way, and now I've decided not to think that way.
Okay.
I've decided to actually do follow up. and maybe text. And so if I get something that's like, say we talked about something in business and I see an article or I hear something or I'm reading a book. I just did that the other day. That something I read I went, oh man, I need to get this to that person. And I've started doing that. And what I found for me with some of the younger guys, it's mostly guys that I've been talking to, it then lets them know that, hey, maybe I can go ahead and have a conversation with Steve. Right. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, and I would distinguish what you just described as coaching, not necessarily mentoring, and what I'm defining as mentoring. So as you're reaching out, did you go to an event with their family? Did you spend some personal time with them? That's the step that mentoring takes you to, versus saying, hey, I'm going to call you up and check on how you're doing. And that can nurture it, but unless the energy drives from the mentee, it's likely not going to last. Right, so I have a lot of people I can talk to that way. I may only be one person that they can reach out to because they felt a connection and they want to nurture it. So when I leave a conversation of we're having coffee or we're having a drink or whatever, I always tell them, listen, call me. If you got anything, I'm wide open to continue to talk. So I leave that wide open to let them know don't feel like it's a burden to call me.
So you let them know that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, that's key. That's key.
So
I'm available to you anytime.
Absolutely. So. And I'll tell you from my consistency standpoint, so something that Dr. Brown, this comes back to why I saw him every year, when I was 35, which is next year will be my 30th year addressing the senior class at the Rinker School at Florida. It will be over 3,000 students that I'll have sat in a 2.5-hour work session, and we talk through things. And it's really been enriching. I've been through 3 generations now seeing the difference between Gen X, Y, and Z, and how they're entering the work world, what they think, and so forth. And so, and out of that, I routinely get 2 or 3 people who will just stay in contact, and I'll nurture that. Now they might have gone off to Houston, or we might not be local with each other, but I always tell them, call me, and so forth. So they have connections that way. I've even had some 10 years out of school, because they know I was a developer and they're thinking about development, will call. Now again, I'm probably only coaching in that circumstance, because I'm answering a call and being specific, as opposed to this kind of relationship in the 5 men that I have that was really born out of some emotion, some deep connection and such.
So, but do you need both? Do you need coaches and mentors?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, because there's things we don't know. You in your business are bringing up young people, you got to teach them the business, right? Right. And they make mistakes. They need to be coached the right way. We're all going to do that.
We all make mistakes.
We do, right. And so coaches help in that regard. And, and until you get to be where you're self-sufficient, you got to be coached up to the next thing.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Right. So the book, what inspired you to do that? Why did you was it that drive back?
Yeah, that was it. It was a realization of something special that I had not put in context. And when you stand up and you talk about someone's life in a eulogy, it's the final words, at least public words, that you say about someone. You really think about it. Obviously, I'm thinking about it beforehand because I'm writing it. Right. But I'm feeling it while I'm saying it.
Right? It's emotional.
It is very emotional, right? And and I knew his wife was my wife Rena, and his wife had gotten to know each other. I knew their kids. I mean, we were just that closely connected. And so I'm leaving the eulogy with a pretty deep set emotion about what I just went through, right? And did I do a good job in honoring him? And did I say what he was to the world and being premier construction educator that he was? And that sort of set off, I'm by myself for 5 hours, right? You got a lot of thinking you can do in the car that way. So that was the connection, and just then now thinking about it in terms of me thinking about him and his place in the world, it was about, what about our relationship? I really hadn't thought or put it in context. So, so that was really the inspiration, and I just, the spirit of the drive got me thinking and broadening it to, I really do have other people, and that's what got the 5 men.
So you thought about the other people, and then why did you decide to put that in a book? What is it, to help other people to be in a mentoring situation, you think?
So I've got kind of 3 large-scale touch points to young people. I'm a Rotarian, and one of the things I did in my Rotary Club when I was president in that year was to take our Rotary Club from 1 Interact group to 12 different schools, to try and bring young students into service and give them a mechanic for getting to some place in life and so forth through service. And so that connection was really, and 12 years later, it's as strong as ever, right? The second one was I was a travel baseball coach out of East Cobb, nationally ranked team.
Was your kid?
I'm sorry?
Was your kid on the team?
My youngest one was, yeah. And he got to play a little bit because it was a pretty high level of baseball.
Right.
But he loved being out there and having his role and such. But the idea of families, competition, getting ready for college, all the thickness of being in high-level travel baseball is also about having kids deal with rejection and emotion and all that. So and then the third one, as I mentioned, was all the students at the university. So yeah, I had these 3 occasions of connecting on a large scale with high school students, college students, and athletes that continue to have opportunities for me, and I was out of those for the most part. My kids are grown, I'm not in that world as much anymore, so I thought, you know what, out of this discussion and out of this experience, I could write a book and hope to inspire some young people to read it and think about, there's people all around me who can service this role, and that's the 5 men give a pretty broad range of opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
And they each represent something a little bit different to you.
They do.
Right?
Well, they did to me, and I think to them, if they're thinking very limited, because most people tend to think about work.
Yeah.
In the context of I want to mentor in my work world.
Right.
And that's there's a lot more to learn than just
It's
a lot of work, right? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything I hadn't asked you? Think about.
Gosh, I guess the nugget of stories that come about and I think in connection to the awareness of who's around you. I'll share a couple of sort of serendipitous moments that happened with the book. They're not on the role of mentorship, but they're really trying to speak about just be aware. Because if you're in this role of seeking a mentor, be aware of the relationship and someone I've just met that's got, there was a spark there. I'm aware of it to take on of it. So the book, the cover, you can see the 5 men, and they represent the 5 different men from my coach, my father, the educator, the priest, and the businessman are all in the book. And so I didn't have a cover for it, but I was in Spain last year, and we were walking El Camino, right? And we were on an 18-mile walk, and we got going at about 8 in the morning, and the sun was just coming up, so the east sun was right behind us, and I was with me plus 4 other people, so there were 5 of us. We were walking on a roadway, and the sun was coming up behind us and cast a shadow out in front of us of 5 people, right? That's the image I saw.
Wow.
This is it helped sort of give me confidence going forward. It was like, maybe it was spiritual in nature of some kind, but
did you take a picture of that?
Yeah, I do have a picture of that at the moment. We all stopped and looked at it because they all knew I was writing the book. My wife and my sister were with me, but another couple. And so we went through that and kind of just said, what a moment. And walking on the Camino is a spiritual journey anyway,
right.
In a lot of ways. So that happened. And the other one was, which was really stunning for me, and in the back of the book, actually, I'll say the book is written as a novel. It's not a how-to book. It's not a self-help book. It's a story, and it's written in novel form. So it weaves together all these characters, which are the characters I experienced.
And kind of as you met them in time,
so
too,
each paragraph sort of speaks to that, but they're all connected in some way, and it walks your way through. So the idea is it's a nice, easy read, and there's a story connecting everybody together and such. And so one of the 5 men was the first boss I had out of school, and he had encouraged me in the company I worked for, which at that time was one of the world's largest general contractors, to start a business in there. And the business we started had a really specialty that came out of the education I had at Florida. And so that business blossomed. I ended up leaving the company, but I was trying to reconnect with him, and I hadn't talked to him in a number of years, and found out he had passed, and I didn't even know it, which I felt I should have known that. But I read his obituary, and a portion of his obituary is in the back of the book. And it speaks to his 25-year progression to the senior level of that company with the product that we had created. And the words in the obituary, I still had the brochure we did together from 1984. And I folded it out, and the lead-in paragraph basically was pretty darn close to what they wrote in this obituary. And I went into my wife and said, Rena, look at this. Look at what happened to Bob after I left. And so it was one of those moments you say, here's a relationship. Maybe I gave something to him as a young 24-year-old guy working for a big company, and he was a senior leader, and now he built a career that way, and I'd gone on to other things.
Right.
But to me, it was sort of, I wouldn't call it reverse mentorship because he was coaching me on how to help it there, but clearly what we worked on blossomed to something more. So just great personal satisfaction about those sorts of things can happen in life and be aware of them.
Well, let's talk about that. So as a mentor, right, you can learn from your mentee.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Like what kind of things could a guy like me learn from somebody that?
Well, so I think the biggest thing for us to learn
Right.
is that we don't understand the world of a 25-year-old today or a 35-year-old, right? Somebody who's early in their career, it doesn't parallel where we were.
Wasn't the same type of
No, the world's
stuff.
changed, right?
Yeah.
And technology, values, the political conflict that's going on. I mean, there's just untold number of things that are going on that are different. So to me, learning and helping to put that in context, that's why I may never have the right answer, because I may not really understand what the answer is. But the conversation is what, if a good mentor's got a skill about.
So that's why
getting
you're
it.
saying you really got to just ask a lot of questions and learn a lot about it, because you may not really understand 100%. You may just think you do, but you really need to understand what's going on in that person's life.
And where's your context? Did you did you grow up? And I mean, not to put things political, but you may have different views of the world coming from wherever. And so, unfortunately, the world's gotten, we don't talk to each other very well about that. Oh, Steve, I do want to say one thing. So, Egbert Perry wrote my foreword.
Yeah. And you've done some work with Egbert,
Yeah,
right?
Egbert and I have been working together for almost 20 years.
And Egbert is, for those that don't know,
Egbert is chairman of the Integral Group. He was a former chairman of Fannie Mae back in the day. Highly influential community builder, which is the business I'm in too. And so really huge impacts across the country on bringing communities up from impoverished state to being healthy and successful in their own way. And so I asked Egbert to write the foreword, and so I'm going to read the first line of what he said, which opened my eyes to something I had not even been thinking about, because I was really kind of individual oriented here. So he said, "This book is a must-read for those seeking answers to our loss of civility and the extreme division that seems to dominate the headlines today." I said, you know what? I mean, why wouldn't I think about that?
well,
That wasn't in my story, but yet
that's what he sees in you.
it is. Well, and that's what he sees in the world, right?
Yeah.
And his life's mission is about mending and knitting and so forth. And yet, what he goes on to say about it is, it's not going to happen from big talk from amorphous organizations at the top. It's going to be right here.
One-on-one.
One-on-one. If a person of my view and age maybe is talking to someone younger who has just an entirely different, well, then we need to understand each other, and you got to do that for dialogue. And maybe a mentor will develop because just of the age relationship, or, you and I have been out there for a lot longer. We got more to share that way. But until I understand that context, and this is why I've been saying coaching to mentoring, I understand your view of the world, this division, where you're at on that. And instead of attacking it or not seeking to understand it, can we talk our way through it? And can I give you some value? But also, I'm going to learn something as the mentor, right? My view of the world changed in some way.
That's where the real depth in life comes from. And I tell people all the time, all the good stuff in life is really free. You just have to jump in there and work it up, right? You got those relationships. That's just
So I appreciate this, because how I extend this, besides having a book sale or whatever, I really want it to be more tangible, to how to get it in these podcasts and other ways to let young people, inspire them to think and realize. I think that's the starting point. It's awareness.
Yeah.
As with most things. I just talked to your son a few minutes ago, and he asked, well, how do you ask someone to be your mentor? That was and he says, that's the biggest question we all get. I said, well, we've already talked about it.
Yeah.
It's not an ask to be a mentor. It's developing
It's not a sale, right?
That's
you don't
right.
have to sell.
Yeah, it's a relationship that grows into that over time, and it may take years to get there.
I call it curiosity. If you've got somebody and you've talked to them and you felt like they were into the conversation and interested, that's the way I've always done it growing up. Is I would want to be more curious. I'd want to go back and have coffee with them again or have lunch, because I'd say, hey, I'd really like your opinion on this, or I'd really like, for you to tell me what you would do in this situation. And until you do that once or twice, you don't really understand that other people would love to give you their opinion, and then that can develop more deeper into more of a mentorship.
And I
Kind
would
of go from a little bit of a coaching to a mentorship, maybe.
Yeah, and I would say, most of the reads I've gotten feedback on have been, friends and family my age that are reading it, and I get one common thing that's shared amongst them. It says, once I got done reading it, it caused me to reflect on my own mentors.
Oh.
That was the number one feedback I've gotten from people my age that are looking back. And the part B of that is that I so appreciate that I love to be a mentor. Now, they don't know necessarily how to get there.
Right.
But similar to a young person seeking it, it's opening the door to people you meet and allowing the relationship to develop if it's going to develop. Right.
Well, I've done this several times. Is I will actually, if I'm with somebody younger, and I feel like that there's somebody I know that's more mature or has more experience in that area, I will actually put those two together and say in the conversation, "Hey, Jim, I want you to mentor Scott."
Yeah.
And now, Scott, you have to call Jim. I lay all of that out for him, and I say, "I want you guys to promise me you'll have at least 3 coffees in the next 3 months." And I've been absolutely blown away how that's developed. I would say percentage-wise, probably 75% of the time but I've spent, it's because I kind of know them both fairly well, right?
Well, but that's how it can happen. And, relationships where there's so many people we all know on both sides. So if you can nurture that, and you're talking about sparking a relationship.
Yeah.
You're creating a mechanism for that relationship to blossom. Of course, they have
So
to.
guys like us, if you know a younger person that you think you could hook them up with somebody else that you think that could help, don't hesitate to do that, wouldn't you say?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Then you get 2. You get a twofer. You got 2 people going, "Wow, man, thanks. That was great." Makes
awesome.
you feel great that you did something to help 2 people out, right?
Yeah. So it's
Great, thanks. Hey, y'all get the book, 5 Men. If you're young and you want to know how somebody like us feels in mentoring, there's a lot of good information in there. If you're our age and you think you'd like to spend some time mentoring, or you want to reflect on the guys that mentored you, because I think we all have some mentors. We just, like this book, just made me think about who were those people in my life too. So just like you said, that's probably the number one thing that a lot of people have gotten out of this book. But anyway, go get it. How do they get the book, Dave?
Amazon.com, just 5 Men and my name, Dave Schmit. You search for it, it'll pop up. So you can get it right there.
And if you're poor and you're broke and you need some money, call Dave. He'd love to mentor you on that. No, I'm just kidding.
I might send him a book.
Yeah. Thank y'all for listening.
All right.